Hi everybody, it's Chris and welcome back to another video. Now lots of my videos are based on the 1970s, which I think is the greatest decade for music, but today I'm going to make a case for 1980 being the greatest year for classic rock, hard rock and heavy metal, and I've got 50 reasons why that could be the case. At number 50, we had our first ever Monsters of Rock festival in 1980, which I was lucky enough to go to. Featured Rainbow as the headline act, the Graham Bonnet version of Rainbow, Judas Priest, Scorpions, April Wine, Saxon, Riot and Touch played on that particular day. A couple of weeks, in fact probably about a week later, I went to the Reading Rock Festival over the bank holiday weekend in August 1980, and this was like the new wave of British heavy metal festival this year anyway, and it was absolutely brilliant, and some of the bands that I saw then are going to feature in this 50. Next up, we've got Swiss band Crocus. I think this is probably their best song. I think one of their early 45s on Areola Records. This is Heat Strokes. Next up, we've got a band from Leeds, Vardis. This is their album 100 Miles an Hour, which is a live album. And the song I'm choosing off here is Let's Go, which was a 45 that they brought out. Part of the new wave of British heavy metal. Next up is Canadian band Triumph. This is their album Progressions of Power. They had a reasonable hit off this, I Live for the Weekend. The song I'm choosing is Hard Road. Now I remember seeing this band, I saw them in 1980. They were supported by Praying Mantis, who were very good. But it was marred by the fact that their lead guitarist, Rick Emmett, who was also predominantly their singer as well, was suffering really badly from jet lag and went off stage numerous times to be sick, and they didn't complete the concert and we got a refund, which was a real shame. Next up, I haven't got the album. I thought I did, and I'm sure I've got it somewhere. I can't find it. The album is British Steel by Judas Priest, and the song is Rapid Fire, which does feature on this 1980 compilation Kilowatts, which if you're a metalhead or a rock fan, you probably have got. But Rapid Fire by Judas Priest. Next up, we've got all-female band Girls' School, and this is their album Demolition from 1980. The track I'm choosing from here is a cover version. In fact, in hindsight, I should have included this on my cover versions video that I did recently. The song is Race with the Devil, the Gun song. Really good version of that. Next up is a song from this album by UFO. They changed their lineup. Michael Schenker went, in came Paul, Tonka Chapman, and this is No Place to Run, produced by George Martin, and it's an awful production, and it's not a particularly good album. Some people do love this album, and majority of UFO fans don't, I don't think, like it that much. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. The song I'm choosing on here is Mystery Train. I did see them in 1980 and they were magnificent with Paul Chapman. Really, really good. They had Girl as a support band. Next up is American artist Pat Benatar and a song called Treat Me Right, which is a great song. It was also done by a band called Riff Raff in 81, and they were the originators of that song, but made famous a year before by Pat Benatar. Treat Me Right. Next up is a band that had been around for years and not achieved much, particularly, until they brought out Keep On Loving You. The band is REO Speedwagon, and this is their album High Infidelity, and the track I'm choosing for here is Don't Let Him Go, which is a decent rock song. Next up is a guy you may have not heard of, I'm not sure. His name is Randy Hansen, American guitarist who is really a Jimi Hendrix kind of impersonator in many ways. But this was his first solo album, which came out on Capitol Records, I think it was, in 1980. A decent album, some lovely guitar, very Hendrix influence. If you see any YouTube clips of him, he's probably just impersonating Hendrix. But Champagne and Cocaine's a good song from the 1980s album. Next up, worst cover ever. Wow, Canadian band Reckless. This is actually a band that was really lauded in sounds in 1980, and this album was seen as a masterpiece. It's not really. It was of the time. It's very melodic, but actually quite hard-hitting in places. The guitarist Steve Madden is decent. The vocalist less so, but the track All Night Woman is pretty good, and that's Reckless. Next up, Northeast band Don't Need Your Money by Raven on Neat Records. Great new wave of British heavy metal. The next album was a Blind By French band, and it features a guy called Ross the Boss, who was in The Dictators, and that's one of the reasons I bought it. And I liked the look of the cover. This is Shaking Street. They did have a song on that Kilowatts album, Solid as a Rock, but the song I'm choosing on here is No Time to Lose, which is really, really good track from Shaking Street. featuring Fabienne Shine, who has a very distinctive vocal delivery, very French. Next up is another French band who I saw supporting Iron Maiden on their Killers tour, and the album is Repression. The band is Trust. This is the British version of it, in that there is a French language version of this as well. The lyrics were translated by Jimmy Percy, and the track I'm choosing off here is Sects, which is also the B-side of a track that they brought out on a 45 called Antisocial. They were a really, really good band. A track called L'Elite, which is from the year before, is in French, but it's a brilliant song. Next up from the album, and this is what, number 35, Metal for Mothers, Volume 2. The album featured 2 tracks from a band called Trespass, who never, I don't think, produced an album, but did produce a number of really good songs. And this album kicks off with one of their best ones, One of These Days, which sounds very Thin Lizzy, but is a great song from Trespass. Next up is the classic Ace of Spades by Motorhead. Many might have this higher. I think I'm just tired of hearing it, and I much prefer the self-titled song Motorhead and Overkill to Ace of Spades, but wonderful rock song from Motorhead. At number 33, Hollywood Tease, some dodgy lyrics actually, from very dodgy lyrics, but a brilliant rock song from Girl, featuring a very young Phil Collen, who went on obviously to play in Def Leppard. It has on the B-side My Number, which is, I think, their best song in many ways. That was from 1979, and their version of You Really Got Me. Next up is a wonderful guitarist who I was lucky enough to see live in 1980. That is Rory Gallagher. And I didn't get him until I actually saw him live. He was a master of an instrument, just amazing. And the album is Stage Struck, which isn't that great. It's a little bit too rocky. I know that sounds strange, but a little bit too rocky, in that a lot of the songs seem to be played too fast and too kind of brutally, really. But Shadow Play on here, which is a wonderful song anyway, but Shadow Play is a good version, good rocking live version from Rory Gallagher, all falling over on the floor here. Next up is a guitarist who left a band briefly and produced a couple of solo albums to reasonable success. This is Joe Perry. Let the music do the talking, and the track I'm choosing is the title track from that album from 1980, Joe Perry from Aerosmith. At number 30, a band that reinvented themselves kind of to be in line. They had a slight personnel change and different guitarists came in, but they had a change in sound, and the band is Budgie, and this was a kind of a 12-inch EP that they brought out in 1980, If Swallowed Do Not Induce Vomiting, and it had a number of really good songs on it. Panzer Division Destroy, which is, you know, they were a band with lots of bizarre titles, and that's obviously is included. But Wildfire is a really good rocking song from 1980 Budgie. A string of singles here. At number 29, non-album track by White Spirit, Backs to the Grind. Really good song. Sounds like a Gillan song, and Yannick Gers, who was in this band, went on to play with Gillan before he then went on to play with Iron Maiden. Another new wave of British heavy metal band coming up. This is Dark Star and Lady of Mars on Avatar Records, which is great. And then Gary Moore had a short-lived band called G-Force, which weren't very successful. I saw them at Reading. Also saw they supported someone as well. Can't remember who now. But this is White Knuckles, which is a kind of like an Eruption-style guitar piece, which latches onto a song called Rockin' and Rollin', which is a very metal. I prefer the bluesy version of Gary Moore, but that's a great song. At number 26, we've got a collaboration between two bands, Rush and their good friends Max Webster, and this is Battle Scar. It came out on the album Universal Juveniles, I think, but this is the 45. Battle Scar by Max Webster featuring Rush. Next up is American band Styx, a concept album, which I think is one of their best albums. I really like this album, called The Best of Times. And the title track is good, but the opening song, Rocking the Paradise, is a great track. Next band I saw live in 1980, loved this band, and the album was Animal Magnetism by this is the Scorpions. Make It Real was a 45, which is great. Don't Make Promises, which is a really good rocking song, but the track I'm going to choose off here was also a 45, and it was The Zoo, which is a really kind of melodic, got a really kind of slow beat to it. It's a great song. Number 23, Canadian band Loverboy, terrible name, but this is their debut. Their next album, Working for the Weekend, no, Get Lucky, was a better album, but this is half decent. 2 tracks were singles on here, The Kiddies Hot Tonight and Turn Me Loose, both of which are the best songs on this album, but the track I'm choosing from here is Turn Me Loose, which is fabulous. Number 22, a band you may not have heard of. I'm not sure of their origins, I don't know anything about them really. The band is Shooting Star. This potentially could be their debut from 1980. They did a single called Wild in the Streets, and it was the B-side to this single that I loved. And I remember buying this, and again, Blind Buy, and Bring It On is just a brilliant song. And I thought, oh, I'll get the album. The album isn't that great, but Bring It On by Shooting Star is tremendous. There was another band starting to really gather pace in terms of their success in 1980. They'd gone to bigger things in 81, but Journey is at 21. This is the album Departure. A number of songs I could have on here. Line of Fire I've always really liked, but Any Way You Want It is the song I'm going to choose, a classic song from Journey from 1980. Next up, new wave of British heavy metal band, their debut album. This is the Tigers of Pang Tang and Wildcat. A number of songs again I could have chose. Slave to Freedom is great, Insanity is good, but I'm choosing Killers from Wildcat by Tigers of Pang Tang. At number 19, a band that featured on the Monsters of Rock is an American band called Touch. Kind of pomp rock, AOR kind of sounding, very melodic, some really good songs on this album. I loved this album when I bought this. And I bought it as a result of seeing them live. The song I'm going to choose is Listen Can You Feel It, which has got a lovely anthemic chorus. Back to the new wave of British heavy metal for number 18, Angel Witch and self-titled album. And the song I'm choosing is the lead-off song and the song named after them, Angel Witch, which also came out as a single in 1980. It's got a kind of a football chant halfway through it, which I don't like, but otherwise it's a great song. At number 17, a track that comes from this album, Metal Explosion, which is Radio 1 Friday Rock Show sessions. And it's an unknown band, a band I don't know if they did anything else, but I absolutely love this song. It's a new wave of British heavy metal classic. The band is called Taurus, and the song is called Paper Chaser. It's absolutely superb. It'll be on YouTube somewhere. At number 16, I possibly could have had this band higher. They bought an album called Mirrors in 1979. This is Blue Oyster Cult and Cultisaurus erectus. So they bought out Mirrors, which was quite poppy, in an attempt to be probably, a bit more successful, but it just didn't sound like them. It didn't work. So they employed Martin Birch as their producer, and he produced a much more metal album. And there's a number of songs from here that I really like. Lips in the Hills, The Marshall Plan, Deadline, Black Blades, tremendous. But the song I'm choosing is Divine Wind, which is kind of a little bit bluesy but very menacing. A Buck Dharma song, fantastic stuff. Blue Oyster Cult, Divine Wind. Next is, at number 15, is the opening song from this album. Now, I could have gone with the Overture, which is probably one of my favourite Def Leppard songs, but essentially that's a 1979 song. But the track I'm choosing opens the album. It's called Rock Brigade. I remember seeing them a couple of times during this period, and they were a tremendous live band, and that song is brilliant. At number 14, a band I saw 4 times, maybe even 5 times. I saw them on this tour, Thin Lizzy. This is the Snowy White version of the band. The album they brought out was Chinatown in 1980, so could have chosen Chinatown or Killer on the Loose, which I've probably shared in the past, but the song I'm going to choose closes the album, and it's called Hey You, which is a great song. I really like this album. I think it's hugely underrated. At number 13, a band I really got into in around about this time, and they played at the Reading Festival, and they were amazing at the Reading Festival. It was the Pat Travers Band, and this is a 12-inch single that features the lead-off track, Snorting Whiskey, which is from their album Crash and Burn. It also has Life in London, Evie and Rock and Roll Susie. Life in London is one of the best Pat Travers songs, but Snorting Whiskey, Pat Travers Band. That's at number 13. At number 12, Michael Schenker Group. Saw this lot live. Really good. Michael Schenker's such a talented guitarist. Such an amazing guitar tone, I always thought. Very melodic solos. But the anthem, well, the kind of really awesome song that closes the album, which is kind of bombastic in many ways. It's called Lost Horizons, which is fantastic. He did bring out a single that year as well, Armed and Ready, which was a bit more kind of conventional, but Lost Horizons is wonderful. At number 11, saw this band numerous times. Great fun live. Just a really odd mix of people, and just kind of ramshackle. The album is Glory Road. The band is Gillan, and as I said, I remember seeing them on several tours. The one before this and the Glory Road tour. This is a good album, one of his best albums. Unchain Your Brain, the opener is good. Are You Sure is tremendous, but the track I'm choosing is On the Rocks, which opens up side 2. At number 10, I've seen this band live, tremendous. Saxon, Wheels of Steel from Barnsley in Yorkshire. The tracks that open and close the album are out of this world. Motorcycle Man, but my pick of this from this album is Machine Gun that closes, and that's at number 10. At number 9, I've gone with the absolute classic Fall for Your Loving from the album Ready and Willing by Whitesnake. Again, I saw them on this tour. They were tremendous. David Coverdale in fine form. They brought it out in with a luminous cover. But Fall for Your Loving, classic song, classic band. That's at number 9. At number 8, I've gone with a track from Blizzard of Oz. So Ozzy was kicked out of Sabbath, went solo, brought out this album featuring a young and very, very talented Randy Rhoads, who sadly died in a plane crash a couple of years later. But the opening track, Crazy Train, is just out of this world. At number 7, this is kind of a band who, a bit of a party band, I think, and again, quite ramshackle and all over the place, but I think the album's brilliant. This is Women and Children First by Van Halen. Could have chosen a number of songs from here. And the Cradle Will Rock, Romeo's Delight, In a Simple Rhyme, Take Your Whiskey Home, Everybody Wants Some, all good songs, but Fools is the track that I'm choosing from Women and Children First by Van Halen. At number 6, could have chosen a whole host of songs from this album, but this is the debut album from Iron Maiden. Fantastic. This and Killers for me are my favourite Iron Maiden songs. So the pre-Bruce Dickinson era, and the song that opens, I probably, in many ways, prefer the track Iron Maiden, but the song Prowler, I just think that's, what an opening song. Absolutely brilliant from Iron Maiden. A band at number 5 I saw numerous times live. Just majestic band. This is Rush and Permanent Waves. So I saw them in 1980. There's the programme. Fantastic band. Obviously, this is the album that has Spirit of Radio, which of course is fantastic. But Jacob's Ladder is just marvellous. So that's the song I'm choosing for number 5. At number 4, you're thinking, what else came out in 1980? Well, not my favourite era of the band, but I love this album when it came out. It's the only album by this era of the band, this lineup of the band, that I like. And of course, it's Back in Black by AC/DC. I saw them on the world tour in 1980. Managed to get a couple of autographs as well, and a little bit of paper. Who have I got here? Brian Johnson, Phil Rudd, Angus Young. Amazing band. I love this album, but I'm not a massive fan of Brian Johnson's vocals. I much prefer Bon Scott era. But Shoot to Thrill from this album, I think, is an absolute masterpiece, and that's at number 4. At number 3, I've gone with one of my favourite guitarists, Frank Marino, in a band called Mahogany Rush from the album What's Next. You Got Living is a great song, but Something Coming Our Way is a guitar masterpiece. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Now, I undenied about the next 2 and about the order, but at number 2, I've gone with Diamond Head from their White album. Now, in previous videos, I've shared Helpless as being my favourite song, and it probably is my favourite song. I also love The Prince, It's Electric, Lightning to the Nations, but I suppose I've got to choose their classic Am I Evil, which was an anthem in 1980. So what band's at number 1? This was a band that was rejuvenated in 80. I saw them in 78 or 79, 78 I think it was, at Southampton, supported by Van Halen, and Van Halen blew them out of the water. But then again, I saw them in this band in 1980, and they were majestic, and they brought out a brilliant album. And the band is Black Sabbath, and it's their album Heaven and Hell. This is a fantastic album, featuring Ronnie James Dio, who they brought in from Rainbow. As I said, I saw them on the tour. They were brilliant. Neon Nights is fantastic. Die Young is brilliant. But the title track is my favourite rock song from 1980. What a year. And hopefully what I've got there is 50 reasons why 1980 was the best year ever for rock, metal, classic rock, hard rock, and so on. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'm sure I'll be back sometime soon with another video. Take care. See ya.